Welcome to Life Empowers with Melissa Ohden. Where there is life, there is hope. Where there is life, there's a place for love to grow, and love emboldens and strengthens. Where there is life, there's an opportunity to grow and be empowered. I'm living testament to that, and you are too. And if you don't yet feel like your life is testament to this, don't despair and don't stop listening to this podcast. This is exactly why I'm doing it. Thanks for joining me this week as we delve into so many life-affirming topics. For this month's episode of Life Empowers, I wanted to share with you the powerful story of my friend and fellow abortion survivor, Amy Miles. You may have seen Amy's story starting to be shared. Amy was one of the 7 of us as abortion survivors who spoke at the Empowered by Life panel at New Life Church in Austin in July. This was the first of what we know will be many survivor panels like this that we will be sharing across the nation and, God willing, around the world, allowing abortion survivors to break their silence and share their powerful stories, and allowing you the opportunity to come face to face with abortion survivors and learn more about failed abortions. And I really hope be inspired and encouraged by what we have faced in our lives and how we're now using our lives to save the lives of the unborn and even our population of abortion survivors. Amy shared her story so beautifully. And so in this podcast, that is really what I'm going to be sharing with you is her 8-minute clip from that panel. And in case I forget to later, I just need to put this out there. If you feel called, interested in hosting an abortion survivor panel for your organization, maybe it's a fundraiser for you, maybe you want to do a fundraiser for us, goodness knows we need that. If it's something for your church for Respect Life Month in October, or even in January, everywhere in between, we would love to do a panel with these survivors or those other survivors now who are going through our healing groups and going through more speakers training. So just to put that out there, that's always an option. That's how we change the world, is by healing those who are harmed by abortion and giving them that opportunity when they feel called and comfortable to do so, to share their story. So just putting that out there, that's an option. Feel free to reach out to me, Melissa at abortionsurvivors.org. Or you can also always connect with Robin, who's our education coordinator. Robin really helps prepare survivors. And so you can reach Robin at education@abortionsurvivors.org. So just before I share Amy's story with you, I want to set the stage a little bit. When I share people's stories, I want to give you that kind of behind the scenes look at the preparation through the Abortion Survivors Network that goes into getting survivors to that place that they share their story, and even give you some little glimpses into their lives and what it's like to be us. There are only so minutes in a speech, so you don't often get to hear everything about abortion survivors. And so I want to give you a little bit of that behind the scenes look into just how much I've seen Amy grow and heal and be empowered. That's what this podcast is all about, how life empowers. And I tell you what, Amy is an incredible example of how life empowers. And that's why we're highlighting her this month of August. She is an incredible example of how life empowers, how healing empowers, how confronting your fears, breaking your silence, all of those things empower. They embolden you. They strengthen you. And I will never forget the first time I spoke with Amy. Amy, if you're listening, I know you can probably remember this day too. It was right before the pandemic hit. And anytime I speak to an abortion survivor, which for me obviously is pretty much a daily occurrence, I never forget what those moments are like. I've been doing this now for almost 15 years, and it is a sacred, sacred thing for people to trust you and for them to entrust you with their stories. And I knew the moment I spoke with Amy, she was going to be highly special to the world and highly special to me. Amy and I are so alike in so many ways. We're fairly similar in age. Amy, I'm older than you still. I know that. I own it. But I knew how much Amy and I had in common. The walking through grief, the knowing that you are born on purpose for a purpose, wanting to show compassion to people who have been hurt by abortion, all of those things. Amy and I are just so much alike. We're both a little stubborn sometimes. That list could go on and on. But I just knew how special Amy is. And that moment of speaking with her was so sacred. And now in the last year and a half, I've seen Amy be transformed from the inside out. The first time she came face to face with other abortion survivors in our very first, we call them community Zoom. It's when abortion survivors from around the world come into our online groups and meet one another. And that was such an emotional night. And I saw her heart. And that heart is still there, but that heart has been transformed to a place that has so much compassion it could burst. This heart that knows that they are called to do something mighty, whether it's in our survivor community or in the world. And I want that for every abortion survivor. I want that for each and every one of you listening to this podcast, whether you're a survivor or not. I want you to be so healed and so empowered and so equipped that you know that you can do whatever it is that you are called to do at any given time. And Amy was one of those survivors. When I received that call to go testify before Congress in June, Amy was one of those survivors who I told those staffers that she could do it. And I believe that in my heart. I believe that about my population of survivors. This is the work that we're doing, that we want to heal and empower and equip so well that when the time comes for us to be deployed to fight in this battle, we have so many people that we can choose from who are saying yes because they're ready to say yes. And Amy was one of them. And Amy, I'm so proud of you. I am beyond proud of you. I am so grateful for who God made you to be. And that's the work that we do at the Abortion Survivors Network. Amy has gone through our healing group, so she's one of the survivors who we celebrated her graduation at our retreat. She went through the speakers training, which is not an easy speakers training, by the way. We've been using Mark Newman's very powerful training on being a pro-life speaker. Amy also did the really important work of meeting with a speaking coach. You'll be hearing more from our speaking coach. She actually has started doing some interviews and talking about the work that she does. She is a blessing to us. Shout out to you, Dr. Heidi. We are grateful for you. But Amy went through this process of working with Dr. Heidi, and I can tell you that when I watched her speak in Austin, I knew without a doubt that extra work, that hard work, empowered her, emboldened her. She is an effective communicator. And I share this with you because every person's story is important. Not everybody is ever going to share their story publicly. And I get that. And frankly, I endorse it. I really do. It is not an easy thing personally or even professionally sometimes to get out there and share your story, especially when it's one that involves abortion. But if you are going to go out there and share your story, it's so important that you're prepared, because you need to communicate your story well and be prepared for the questions that people are going to ask you, all of those things. And I can tell you, when I watched Amy, I knew without a doubt she's ready for whatever comes her way. And so I know you're going to hear that today as I share Amy's speech with you. But that's what we've been providing through the Abortion Survivors Network, is the healing support, the community support. So Amy has this tribe, this family of abortion survivors whose relationships with her have continued to heal her and give her strength. And she gets to amplify her voice alongside other survivors in our community. That's powerful. She did the hard work of going through the speakers training, meeting with a speaking coach, and now Amy is ready to take on other speaking events. So you're going to see some big announcements coming up from us soon with how you can book abortion survivors for your events. Those survivors who are going to be listed on our website, abortionsurvivors.org, but they're going to be represented by people who can help amplify their message and help you make your event a success. So important, powerful, great things to come very soon. You're going to hear more about that. But now I want to turn it over to Amy sharing her story. I would encourage you to listen maybe even a couple of times, because there's a couple of statements that Amy makes in particular that stand out to me. And I would love to hear from you later about what it is in Amy's story that impacted you the most. I've got a couple of statements, but I'm always curious to hear what other people are really struck by. And if you have a message that you want to pass along to Amy, I would love to be able to share them with you. So tune in now for Amy's story as she shared it in July at the Empowered by Life Survivor panel at New Life Church in Austin, Texas.
Our next image bearer tonight is Amy Miles. She is a daughter, sister, wife, mother, and occupational therapist. She lives in Oregon. She loves her family, the outdoors, and animals. She works in schools specializing in pediatrics. Amy survived a therapeutic abortion in 1980. She connected with the Abortion Survivors Network about a year and a half ago and is entirely grateful for their support and guidance in her journey to share her story with others, to be a voice for life. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you. It's truly an honor to be here with these beautiful lives and to be able to share with you. Have you ever wondered why life is so hard? I've wondered that. In fact, I've spent many of my years trying to make sense of it all. But on one rainy Monday morning, on my day off, my mom showed up at my doorstep with 2 Starbucks drinks in hand. This is something she never did. That was the day that I learned the answer to my big why. One thing that always made me ask why was that I was born early. So early, in fact, that I had a brain injury at birth. And what my parents always told me was that the blood vessels were just so tiny that some of them broke. There was a mark on my head, and I say mark now, but when I was a baby and all the way up to age 2, it was more like a goose egg. I think I wore a lot of bonnets. But after a lot of specialist visits and doctor visits, I was diagnosed with something called cerebral palsy. For me, what that means is I wear hearing aids. Do you guys know anybody who wears hearing aids? Well, if you don't, now you do. If you asked anybody in my family what my favorite word is, they would say, "What?" I say it many times a day and in many different phrases. Along with my hearing aids, my leg muscles are tight and they don't work quite right. So when I was learning to walk and run and ride my bike, it was pretty hard. But you can imagine I had a lot of questions along the way. Why? Another thing that always made me ask why is that my parents aren't my biological parents. I was adopted. Do you guys know anybody who's been adopted? Yeah, well, if you don't, now you do. My parents are the greatest, and I'm so thankful for them. I think the thing that I'm most thankful for is that they taught me about Jesus and his love for each and every one of us. The thing that I can really cling on to about Jesus is he loves us even when we don't feel like we look or act or would just look or act quite right. He just loves us. We're his greatest craftsmanship. How many of you guys have ever been teased or bullied in school? I was. And sometimes I would hear the awful things that kids would say, like, "Oh no, we don't want her on our team. She'll slow us down." School was hard. Learning was hard. Making friends was hard, especially when I had these giant hearing aids and crooked legs. Felt like I stood out. And I had a seemingly long walk home from the bus stop, often in the rain. Thank you, Oregon. I had a lot of time to just ask God, why? But on that rainy Monday when my mom showed up at my doorstep with Starbucks, that was the day that I learned the answer to the question that I've always had lurking in the back of my mind. Why have I had all of these challenges? And as I sat there sipping my hazelnut latte, my mom shared with me that my birth mother was a college student who was facing an unplanned pregnancy. I don't know what people were telling her at that time or if she felt like she had any support at all. But she had come to the conclusion that the answer to her problem was to get an abortion. An abortion is defined as the deliberate termination of a human pregnancy. So in other words, that's a baby boy or girl that doesn't get a chance at life. But guess what? I was that baby, and I survived. It's a miracle, really, and as I stood there just shocked, holding my cup, my mom shared with me that an abortion procedure was started, and on June 6th at 12:13 a.m., I was born. I don't know if I will ever know the details of what happened on that day, but I choose to believe that the hand of God was reaching out to protect me. My birth mother may not have realized it, but even as the size of a tiny bean, I had my own DNA that would determine what my hair color would be, what my eye color would be. I was whole and separate from her. I wasn't her. I was me. I'm so thankful that I survived that day. And I think the most awesome thing is that I've learned the answer to my big question, and that is God has a plan and a purpose for me. Did you know that he has a plan and a purpose for every one of us? He knew exactly what was going to happen in my life. He knew what family I would go to, a husband and a wife that desperately wanted their own child but couldn't. He knew that growing up was going to be hard for me, but he also gave me a heart full of compassion for people with different abilities. And that's what I do now for my job. I work with kids and I love it. He gave me an opportunity to share with others that life has value at every stage. And as I go through my life, even now, I feel like he's teaching me about love and forgiveness more than ever before. I haven't had a chance to meet my birth mother yet, but I sure hope I get to someday so I can tell her that I forgive her. I recently found her and I wrote her a letter. And one of the things I asked her was, "Do you have a dimple when you smile? Because my kids and I do." Well, she wrote me back, and at the end of her letter, she put, "P.S. I do have a dimple when I smile." I wish that she wasn't faced with the choice that she made back then. My heart goes out to anybody who's experienced an abortion. I wish that abortion wasn't even a thing. I wish that there would have been someone telling her that there were other options that give life and not take it away. I don't know what it was like to have to go through that choice, but I imagine that she's had a hard time ever since. I'd like to encourage you tonight that if you or someone you know is ever facing an unplanned pregnancy, that there is hope. If you are asking God why, that he has a plan and a purpose for you and your baby. Thank you.
Have you ever wondered where your dimples came from? That's one of those statements that Amy made, those questions that she asked, that will forever stick with me. For me, I can tell you that one of the things I always wondered was where I got my singing voice, my musical aptitude from. That's one of those little things people probably don't know about me unless they've read my book, You Carried Me, A Daughter's Memoir. I say was, maybe I still am. Maybe I need to brush up on my talents, but I was a pretty accomplished singer and flute player. First chair, come on. I was a very accomplished singer and musician when I was in junior high and into high school. And I always wondered where that gift had come from. I knew through reading my adoption paperwork years ago that Ruth, my birth mother, there was certainly musical aptitude on that side of the family. But then come to find out when I was united with some of my birth father's family, that was a gift on their side of the family also. My great aunt Vicky, and I still talk about that today, that is an aptitude that she has. And I think that's something we can all relate to. And what a powerful example that is to all of us. When we're going out and having conversations with people about abortion survivors, failed abortions, abortion, it's so important that we attempt to not only educate people and convert them, but that we build a bridge to them. That's what Amy was doing. She built a bridge to all of us, the audience. And now we're connected to her. We can relate to her. We understand her. That's the power of an effective communicator, but that's also just something we need to take with us going forward. Build a bridge. Build a bridge to the people you are attempting to influence. I bet you weren't expecting that today. I'm glad that is a gift that Amy could give to all of us. If you are interested in knowing more about Amy, feel free to visit our website, abortionsurvivors.org. We'll be sharing Amy's story yet this month of August. I know the month is running away from us, but we wanted to get this content out and celebrate Amy time and time again. If you're interested in booking Amy for an event, you can also go to the website, go to our Speakers Bureau page or book a survivor to speak, and you can find out how to connect with Amy. Feel free to follow us on social media to learn more about her and the survivor that we'll highlight in the month of September. Visit our YouTube channel because we have new playlists coming out, folders on a regular basis with all of these survivors sharing their stories as they're being healed, empowered, and equipped. And as always, be on the lookout for big projects that we are doing. We are constantly working on things. Most of the things I can't really talk about publicly until they're about ready to hit. But I can tell you we are saving the lives of the unborn. We are transforming the lives of survivors, and we are healing families. So as always, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Life Empowers. Thanks for joining me this week on Life Empowers. I hope you found our time together to be life-affirming, hope-building, encouraging, informative. And remember, the next time someone states that abortion is empowering, you know better. Life empowers. See you again next week.